hiding all his true thoughts in his crescent-like eyes. As if he was chatting casually, he looked at the old god standing on the throne. "This has nothing to do with the guild, Loki," Uranus answered calmly, without any change in his expression or body. "Since ancient times, he has always been standing still on this stone throne. As if he didn't care about anything, but as if everything was under control." After a little silence, Loki stared closely at the pair of blue eyes under the coat. Gods can't see through gods. Even Loki, who is top-notch in scheming, still can't see through the thoughts in those pupils. Tisk. This personality really hasn't changed. After a little shock in his heart, Loki said to Uranus in a slightly brisk tone, "Is that so? Sorry. Keep working hard." After saying that, she wanted to turn around and leave, but saw that the boy next to her didn't move. With some curiosity, Loki stopped. "God Uranus, do you know the mysterious song in the deep?" Suddenly, Sioran asked a seemingly inexplicable question. So far, he has basically ruled out the suspicion of the old god. A great god with such a spirit will also be kind to the pig. It doesn't look like a mouse hiding in the dark. The gods are the embodiment of the rules of the world, and some essences cannot be hidden at all. Therefore, Sioran tried another thing. Anything can happen in the underground maze. Uranus did not answer directly, but the expression was very obvious. "Is that so? Then I'll take my leave." Hearing the answer of the old god, Sioran no longer paid attention to Loki, who was curious beside him, and turned away directly. Things are really getting more and more interesting. "Hey boy. What is the mysterious song you and Uranus talked about?" After walking up the stairs again, Loki next to him couldn't help but wonder. Unknown is what she desires most. Since this kid came to the Twilight Pavilion, Loki found that many interesting things are gradually emerging. Who knows? Isn't there an unknown in this world that even you gods don't understand? Sioran smiled and didn't tell Loki the meaning of that sentence. His current goal is not there, and he will explore it later. For now, it is enough to know that the guild has a connection with them. At least he can be sure of one thing: Uranus will not exist in the range of future enemies. Tisk, kid who pretends to be a ghost. Then do you think Uranus is the person behind the man-eating plant? Loki curled his lips unhappily, and then asked Sioran for his opinion. The goddess naturally had the answer in her heart. She was just curious about this kid full of unknown around her. "No, now I am most suspicious of the male god you met." Without any hesitation, Sioran made his own judgment. "Oh? Really decisive? But this time it just happened that our ideas are somewhat the same." Loki showed a common false smile on his face, as if he had made some plans. After the conversation with Uranus just now, she almost ruled out the suspicion of the guild. Although Dionysus said that he lost 2 children in the monster festival. But the current clues show that he is the most suspicious guy. "Then, I will ask you to contact that male god next. I am very optimistic about you in terms of gathering intelligence." Old fox Loki. Sioran decisively handed over the follow-up matters to Loki. He was not interested in contacting the male god. If it was a goddess who suited his taste, he would not mind deepening his understanding. As for the male god, sorry, please disappear from his sight. Tisk. You kid really knows how to order people around. Loki glared at Sioran fiercely, very dissatisfied with the young man's provocative attitude. But she did not refuse. After all, after eliminating the suspicion of Uranus, she had this plan. Chapter 69, Monsters increase explosively. Fells. Soon after Sioran and Loki left, Uranus's low voice sounded again. "Well, I'm here, Uranus." Accompanied by the call of the old god. A mysterious man wrapped in a robe suddenly appeared in the dark corner of the altar. The voice was neutral, and it was impossible to tell whether it was a man or a woman. He wore black gloves with complex patterns on the surface. It was like a ghost hidden in the shadows. The items you entrusted in Rivera town probably fell into the hands of Hero. Uranus said to Fels calmly. Before Sioran and his friends returned to the surface, the information in the town was sent back to the guild in advance. At the same time, the death of Gang Fist Fighter of the Ganesha family was also learned. As the most powerful faction in the Maze City, this naturally had a great impact. But the old god is more concerned about something else. Is that so? It seems that our premonition has unfortunately come true. Someone is behind the recent changes in the monsters in the underground labyrinth. But the hero will come with the god Loki. Fels is the mysterious man who commissioned the dog girl. The green fetus orb was taken with the help of the allies of the guild. He didn't expect that it would end up in the hands of the hero and the Loki family. But he was not too worried, but was happy to see the situation. His purpose was to investigate the cause of the changes in the underground labyrinth. It is a good thing that he has attracted the attention of the strongest in Orario. After all, their goal is to maintain the stability of this labyrinth city. At the same time, Fels also made a decision in his heart. The shadow lurking in the dark of the city is gradually emerging. Perhaps the dead souls of the past have begun to return. Even if he stays in this underground altar that no one cares about, Uranus can know a lot of information. The old god's keen intuition can sense the coming storm. The riot of the monster festival is just the beginning. The remnants that have not been dealt with in the past are already planning to make a comeback. The previous hero problem also made Uranus very concerned. He naturally knew what kind of existence the owner of the mysterious singing voice was. But as a great god, he could not know the purpose mentioned by the black-haired boy here. Uranus tried to see the boy's thoughts in the previous conversation. But he found that he could not see clearly no matter what, which was completely beyond his expectations. After all, the people of the lower world cannot hide from the eyes of the gods. But the hero broke the cognition of the gods again. But after thinking of his relationship with the Astrea family, the old god did not doubt it, at least there was no conflict in their current positions. How about informing the hero about that? We need his strength. Okay. After a brief exchange, Fel's figure disappeared from the spot, and the underground altar returned to peace. Only Uranus was filled with majesty and oppression in the space. Today's goal has been achieved. After leaving the Pantheon, Sioran and Loki separated automatically. On the way back to the clan's residence, he bought some exquisite little gifts. He could fully foresee what kind of storm he would encounter after returning home. In order to appease the dissatisfaction of his own girl, he certainly needed to make some preparations. When passing a deserted intersection, Sioran paused. He looked at the dark alley with a cold look and said, "Come out." He could clearly sense that someone was in the deep shadows. This level of tricks can be known without special investigation. As expected of a hero, Fels, who had just left the prayer hall, appeared in front of Sioran. After seeing the boy enter the shop on the street, he waited here on purpose. This intersection is the only way to return to the Hestia family. Interesting, you are a dead soul. The mysterious man in the black robe in front of him obviously intended to conceal his identity. However, this was useless to Sioran, who saw through his disguise in an instant. The body deliberately hidden under the robe had no flesh and blood. It was completely a skeleton, but it had a human soul. If it weren't for the fact that he could not feel any malice from him, Yuen Ran would have destroyed him immediately. The inexplicable appearance of a walking corpse was inappropriate no matter how you looked at it. Hearing this, Fels could not hide his hesitation. His robe and gloves are special magic props. Adventurers should not be able to see through his cover. But these seemed to be completely useless to the black-haired boy in front of him. He easily saw through his tricks. Undead. There is indeed no word that can better describe his current appearance than this. Be honest about your purpose. I don't have time to chat with a corpse. It's not a cute beautiful girl. Although Sioran was a little interested in the mysterious person in front of him, he didn't think about it. In this world full of unknowns, it's not surprising that anything appears. But he waited in this alley specifically, obviously with some plan. Sioran was more curious about his purpose. The boy's straightforwardness made Fel slightly stunned. But he soon returned to normal and directly stated his purpose. I hope you can accept my commission, hero. It involves the stability of Orario. Then Fels told Sioran all the details of his commission. He hoped that Sioran could go to the 24th floor to investigate. Recently, there has been an abnormal situation of monster surge there. The 30th floor had the same situation before. Luluni and Hasana's commission was related to the abnormal monster surge. Through his allies, Fels found the source of the monsters on the 30th floor. That was the commissioned green fetus orb. He originally wanted the adventurer to bring the orb back to the surface for a thorough investigation. But he never thought that it would fall into Sioran's hands now, so he issued this commission. According to Fels' investigation, the source of the surge on the 24th floor is in the grain warehouse deep in the floor. He feels that this sudden situation is related to the remnants of the Dark faction. Some hidden malice intends to destroy the hard-won piece of Orario. Therefore, he hopes that the hero will go to investigate or suppress it. You shouldn't have chosen any other adventurers except me. Right. Although the words were questioning, Sioran's tone was very affirmative. From the fact that he had asked Hasana and Luluni to complete the commission separately in Rivera town before. This mysterious man is a very cautious type, and he doesn't seem to want to attract attention. So his current commission must not only invite himself. The three main forces of the Australia clan, and E.S. Wallenstein. Hearing these names, Sioran's casual look slightly restrained. It seems that this guy has made plans long ago. The commissioned adventurers are all girls with whom he has a close relationship. The three main forces of the Australia clan are naturally Alice, Kaguya, and Ryu. The girls who are still pursuing justice and order have now successfully sublimated to 4.6. Compared with the girls of his own clan, Sioran does not spend much time with Alice and the others. However, he will still provide guidance in the girls' free time. After completing the miracle of the sky a year ago, he directly upgraded their instruments. Alice and the others had originally reached the peak ability value of 4.5. After breaking through the limit, they naturally completed the sublimation. According to the serious character of the girls of the Australia clan. If they knew about the monster surge on the 24th floor and the news about the Dark faction, the girls who uphold justice will definitely not refuse the commission of the guy in front of them. The same is true for AISI. The girl herself has a sense of the fetus gem. In addition, the red-haired woman who has always called her Urya is also pursuing this gem. Since it is known that similar gems may appear again on the 24th floor, then the probability of the red-haired woman appearing will also be very high. AISI, who cares about her very much, will of course accept this commission. It is likely that it happened after Sioran left the Twilight Pavilion. This also means that the other party has a very extensive intelligence network in the Maze City. He is really a smart guy, deliberately trying to pull me into it. I accept your commission. When Sioran heard the familiar name, he had already decided. In addition to being somewhat interested in these things, he hadn't seen Alicia and the others for a while. In addition, he was also worried that something unexpected would happen. After all, the underground maze is always full of unknowns. If they encounter special monsters similar to the previous 27th floor, even the girls who have completed sublimation are in danger. For various considerations, Sioran happily accepted the commission. He is not afraid of any traps, he just hopes that the guys in the dark can make it more interesting. Thank you, hero. Hearing Sioran's reply, Fels breathed a sigh of relief. Since he saw the young man in front of him, he has been under inexplicable pressure. It was like facing a god, everything was seen through by him. This feeling reminded him of the time when he first became an adventurer. As a rookie, he felt awe when facing the unknown of the maze. In his long time of hundreds of years, he had never seen such a terrible person. Face this top adventurer in Orario in person. The undead walking in the world felt a sense of terror in their hearts. Before leaving at last, Fels told Sioran that the meeting place was a tavern in Rivera Town on the 18th floor. Watching the mysterious man disappear in front of him, Sioran thought about his identity in his mind. The strength was about 4.4, and he had the unique undead breath of the dead core. From the perception of the soul, he should have been a wizard before. The current skeleton appearance is probably caused by some magic or props. I have never heard of this person in Orario before. However, there seems to be a legend of a ghost in the guild. This is an interesting story that the half-elf girl once mentioned when chatting with Sioran. Therefore, it can be basically confirmed that he is a member of the guild. Based on his position just now, it is very likely that he is Uranus's private soldier in the dark. After all, since he is not a member of other families, only the guild would be so concerned about the situation of the underground maze. His purpose is obviously to maintain the stability of this maze city. Then, there will be no conflict for the time being. Then Sioran walked towards the family with a small gift without thinking about it. Ran, my child, don't you explain what happened last night to your main god. You must have been fascinated by that Warren, right? It must be. As soon as he returned home, the petite goddess girl started to denounce him. Hestia tried to pretend to be calm at first, but then she rushed over directly. She was a little dissatisfied with someone who had been staying with his mortal enemy recently. He didn't come back yesterday. The goddess girl almost killed directly to the base camp of Loki's family last night. If Lily Luca and the others hadn't been calm enough, they would have quarreled by now. Although Hestia is the main god of the family, the spiritual support of all the girls is the boy. I encountered some interesting things when I took Isai and the others to the underground maze yesterday, so I was delayed for a while. Also, Hestia, are you staying at home too much now? Sioran skillfully hugged the warmth in his arms and comforted her dissatisfaction. The fair and smooth face of the goddess girl was slightly tense. There was still a little trace of fried potato balls at the corners of her mouth. There was no trace of the majesty of the gods at all, just a simple and innocent girl. However, Sioran found that Hestia seemed to be lazier than before recently. Without him watching, the goddess girl was gradually degenerating. That's right, Lord Sioran, Lord Hestia, Zhaoqian's, is now a loser. She lies on the sofa and reads books every day, and doesn't move much at all. Lily Luca seemed to release the complaints that had been accumulated for a long time. The loser appearance of her own main god made the little human girl want to complain a long time ago. Especially after the boy left, she completely locked herself in the house. Only when she wanted to eat her favorite fried potato balls would she choose to go out on her own initiative. Hey, supporter, you are so rude. Did Lily say anything wrong, Lady Hestia? The goddess girl couldn't refute her child's words at all, and lowered her head. That won't do, Hestia. Lily, please take her out more often on weekdays. Sioran gently interrupted the two girls, and gently rubbed their heads with his palms. He didn't want to see Hestia become too lazy. Well, since it's Lady Sioran's order, Lily will definitely obey it. I won't let Lady Hestia continue to become a loser. Lily Luca's face showed a comfortable expression, completely immersed in the boy's warmth. The little human girl always abides by principles and makes rational choices. But as long as he says a word, she will forget everything. She did not hide her pure heart. The center of Hestia's family has always been not the main god but Sioran. But Hestia doesn't care about these at all. She just wants to enjoy all the purity of the lower world with her beloved children. The rest is not important. But I am a home god. Faced with the sudden decision made by her family, the god girl weakly resisted. Reject. The Hestia family is still as harmonious as usual, which is gratifying. P.S. I went for a physical examination and prepared materials today, and went to the company dormitory tomorrow. Chapter 70, A Man of Sweet Talk. Familiar warmth sneaked into the room through the gap in the window. Sioran skillfully pulled open the softness that was tightly hugging him, and quietly stood up. Today is the date of the commission. Therefore, he did not enjoy the warmth in his arms too much, and left the familiar abundance. After slightly tidying up the messy hair of the goddess girl, Sioran gently closed the bedroom door. As soon as he walked out of the room, he saw the elf girl who had been waiting here. The slim-fitting uniform completely wrapped the girl's curvy body. The black softness was scattered around the waist. The red eyes stared straight at the boy who came out. The pupils always reflected only a touch of black. Good morning, Wu Zhangxi. Good morning, Lord Sioran. After returning to the house, Sioran informed the girls of the family that he had accepted the commission. Originally, Lily Luca and the others also wanted to go to the 24th floor with him. But they were all rejected by Sioran. When he was exchanging information in the Dusk Pavilion before, he also cooperated with Loki by the way. Not only will they work together to eliminate the rats that affect the stability of the Labyrinth City. At the same time, the relevant matters of the subsequent expedition were also determined, but these were mainly handled by Finn. After all, the number of Hestia's family is small, so there is no need to make too many preparations. The Loki family is different. They have a large number of people, and it will take a while to prepare the materials for the expedition. Moreover, the expedition cannot only include the preparation of materials in advance. There are other related investigations, which Sioran handed over to Finn and his team. The target of the joint expedition will be the 59th floor that the Loki family has never reached. The red-haired weirdo specifically mentioned this floor, and it is obvious that something is hidden there. For the cordial invitation of the enemy, Sioran usually chooses to play with them. The premise is that he has free time and is interested in it. Otherwise, he will choose to push forward alone, too lazy to play the cat and mouse game. 720 However, he intends to treat the subsequent expedition as a training for his own girl. The Hestia family's previous expeditions never went below the 50th floor. So this is also to take them to understand the subsequent changes in the deep layer. Common sense before the 50th floor is not very useful in the later floors. As long as you get there, you will understand. Sioran will not remind them too much, but will only watch their growth. It has always been like this. Therefore, the girls who are slightly behind in level now are more suitable for conserving their energy to face the upcoming expedition compared to today's commission. The monsters after the 50th floor are also a great pressure for them. As for Fierwazy, let's not talk about her current strength of 4.6. Even according to the character of the elf girl, Sioran will not leave her behind. Even if he leaves alone first, the girl who finds out that he is not there will definitely chase him. The elf girl has always been so simple, persistent, and cute. She has already completely devoted her body and mind to the boy she loves. Master Sioran, is the incident on the 24th floor worth so many first-level adventurers? On the way, Fierwazy couldn't help but ask the boy beside her with curiosity. According to what the boy said before, even if he is not counted, there are 5 first-level adventurers going to the 24th floor this time. She herself, the Sword Princess of the Loki family. Red Jinghua, Swiftwind and Yamato Ryodan of the Australia family. 5 first-level adventurers of LV.6. This is comparable to most of the core combat power of the top faction of Aurario. This exaggerated lineup is extremely easy to destroy several large families. It's just a mid-level incident. Do you really need so many senior adventurers? What's more, with his support, there is no enemy that can stop him. So the elf girl was a little confused. Well, maybe it's to add an insurance. Don't worry too much. Sioran didn't know what the mysterious man was thinking. He accepted the commission only because Alice and the others would go. Otherwise, he would be too lazy to make this trip. Wouldn't it be better to recharge with his girl at home? The people from that guild chose so many first-level adventurers. Perhaps they were worried that there would be an ambush on the 24th floor. The red-haired woman who attacked Ace for the orb before. According to the girl's judgment, she should have the strength of 4.6. If the red-haired woman had a lot of companions. Add to that the group of monsters that were obviously enhanced species. It is indeed possible to pose a certain threat to the girls. And Sioran is the last insurance for this commission, and no one will question his strength. Okay, Lord Sioran. Then without much talk, Sioran and Zhang directly entered the starting road. The two of them quickly passed through the underground maze with a crushing momentum. Soon, they arrived at the tavern mentioned in the commission. The location of the tavern is close to the edge of Rivera town. It was a relatively secluded location in the town, and it was obviously intentional on the part of the client. In addition, it was still early, and there were basically no adventurers in the tavern. Only the boss stood alone at the counter, preparing the relevant drinks in advance. When he saw Sioran coming in, the boss thought he was still asleep. After confirming the arrival of the heroes, they were respectfully invited to the wine table. Sioran was already accustomed to the boss's enthusiasm. He skillfully ordered 2 glasses of fruit wine, and then chatted quietly with Fierwazi. He quietly waited for the arrival of the other girls. About half an hour later, a graceful and heroic figure first appeared at the door of the tavern. The red high ponytail swayed freely in the air with the heroic girl's steps. She wore silver light armor and a slender long sword at her waist. She looked like a dashing female knight. There was no other adventurer with such a style except Elixir. Hey Sioran. Seeing the familiar handsome face, the girl's resolute face unconsciously revealed a generous and hearty smile. She did not hide her joy at all, but she hadn't seen him for a while. Long time no see, Alice, Kaguya, Ryu. Congratulations on reaching level 6. You've worked hard. Sioran greeted the girls of the Astria clan gently. The girls who usually spend most of their time maintaining justice and order. They had relatively little time to meet, so he naturally missed them. After all, this was the first girl he knew, and she did have a special place in his heart. Hey, thanks to you, but I'm still not as good as you. Having said that, Alice couldn't help but soften the curve of her mouth. After getting his help, she and Kaguya kept going to the maze to challenge. The reason for such hard work, in addition to maintaining justice, is not it the hope of getting his affirmation? Since they first parted in the Garden of Stars, they have made up their minds. They want to respond to his expectations. The seeds that once sprouted in the hearts of the girls have long grown into towering trees. Nourished by their pure hearts, it has now borne the fruit of overflowing girlish love. In the center of the scale of justice and order in the hearts of the girls of the Australia clan, the weight called love is placed. A man with sweet words, he didn't even come to our promotion celebration party. Kaguya still had a gentle smile on her face, but her tone was a little complaining. After getting familiar with the perfect Yamato Natsuhiko in front of her, Sioran discovered that the usually gentle girl would occasionally be unexpectedly venomous. However, this is also a cute point of the girl. She will maintain a certain sense of propriety and will never cross the line. Rather than being venomous, it is actually more like an alternative flirting. Well, I'm sorry Kaguya, I was still leading Fei Erzo and the others on an expedition at that time. After Alice and the others reached level 6, the Astria clan held a celebration. They naturally invited Sioran. But at that time, the Hestia clan was on an expedition. He was also training with his own girl, so he missed the banquet. So Kaguya would often joke with him about this. She had been chasing after his back, wanting to respond to his original expectations. In the end, after finally reaching level 6, the person she wanted to share her joy with the most did not come. Even the perfect Yamato Nadeshiko couldn't help but complain about this a little before. But now, it's just a special teasing between the girl and him. Kaguya, you're so rude. Didn't Sioran explain this a long time ago? The serious Ryu didn't see that this was a special tacit understanding between the two of them. He pointed out his partner with a serious face, and this overly serious character has never changed. Oh. I remember clearly the frustrated look of a certain elf after knowing who was not coming. Kaguya, you. A blush suddenly appeared on Liu's smooth face. I don't know whether it was the shyness of revealing her true feelings or the anger provoked by her partner. The somewhat scheming Kaguya would always argue with the serious Liu like this. But this is also a unique way of communication between the two girls. Alice and the other girls are no longer surprised. They stick to their own justice, so naturally they will have differences in some aspects. You are really the same as before. Sioran supported his face with his hand on the bar, watching the girls' communication with a smile. The handsome face became unusually soft at this moment. It caused the eyes of Fearwazy beside him to keep flashing. He has seen the scene in front of him many times over the years. Whenever he sees such a scene, he can feel a faint warmth. This is the most precious existence in his journey of pursuing the unknown. Ahaha, Liang and Kaguya haven't grown up yet. As expected, I am the most mature and reliable one, righteous. Alice came to sit beside Sioran, proudly looking up her delicate face. The heroic girl is always full of confidence, which is the charm of Red Flower. She radiates warmth like the sun, always shining on others. It is precisely because of her all-embracing personality like the sky. She can become the leader of the girls with different personalities of the Australia family. You are the least qualified to say that, Alice. Ryu and Kaguya, who were arguing, suddenly looked at their own leaders at the same time. For Alice, who is inexplicably natural in some aspects, they often maintain an amazing tacit understanding. Picture shows the Australia family. Chapter 71 Underworld. Tap, tap, tap. The crisp footsteps gradually sounded, temporarily interrupting the girls' communication. Then, a golden figure appeared in the tavern. You are here, Isai. Did you sneak out this time? Sioran looked at Isai with interest, who looked slightly surprised. Judging from the girl's personality, she probably accepted this commission privately. She has always been used to solving her own private matters. Well, I don't want to cause trouble for Livalia and the others. Isai lowered her head slightly, with a little shyness on her face. She seemed very embarrassed. Gradually, she was able to open her heart, and the expression on her face was obviously richer than before. Whether it was Loki or Livalia, they were happy to see the girl's current changes. However, the red-haired goddess was still very unhappy with a certain boy. It's really cute. I'll accompany you this time. Sioran put his hand on the girl's head and gently stroked her hair. Hearing his words, Isai's earlobes gradually turned red. AJ. The atmosphere in the field suddenly became subtle. As first-level adventurers standing at the top of Orario at the same time, the girls naturally knew each other. It's just that they had less communication before and were not familiar with each other. Now because of someone, they began to look at each other. Even Isai, who was not good at expressing her emotions, also looking at her hand calmly. Hey, you are still so attractive to women. I should praise you. Kaguya looked at the beautiful and excellent girls in the field and said with admiration. But her tone was obviously filled with a hint of complaint. This guy is about to catch all the beautiful first-level female adventurers in Orario. No, Kaguya. You said it the other way around. I am attracted by your excellence. Sioran frankly expressed his feelings. In this regard, he never concealed his true feelings. Whether it is appreciation or possessiveness. Anyway, he would never let go of these girls that he loved from the bottom of his heart. Feeling the boy's unpretentious affection. A touching pink blush appeared on the cheeks of all the girls in the tavern. Sure enough, it's still a foul. It's been like this since we just met, and I can't resist it. It's no longer that funny smile. The smile on Kaguya's face became extremely gentle, and she looked carefully at the boy she loved. After a brief familiarity, Sioran took the girls to the grain warehouse on the 24th floor. The underground maze from the 19th floor to the 24th floor is the big tree maze. Every corner of the floor is made of bark walls, floors, and ceilings. Each cave room is full of lush vegetation, with a different view. These floors are a paradise for plants, and all kinds of precious herbs grow here. For the pharmacists on the ground, these floors are full of treasures. It's really lively. Are these monsters holding a gathering? Sioran and the girls stopped and saw a huge crossroads in front of them. The lush vegetation blocked most of the light sources on the top floor. But the dense shadows in front of them were vaguely visible, countless. 7%. AISI looked at the group of monsters gathered in front of her expressionlessly. Even if it's a monster surge, this number is not right. I feel weird. Kaguya narrowed her eyes slightly, and she noticed something abnormal. The way they gather is strange. Alexei also saw that the way these monsters gather is extremely unnatural. The entrance of the passage in front is full of various monsters. The other adventurers probably started thinking about escaping when they saw this scene. Unfortunately, they are facing the top adventurers in the maze city. Feyerwazi, I leave it to you. If I take action, some mice may run away after seeing it. Yes, Lord Jiran. According to AIC's information, the red-haired woman seems to be a trainer. It is not ruled out that they can observe through the perspective of monsters. In Rivera Town, the other party seems to have such means. If the law is used, it is easy to find their location. But in the underground maze, if not exploring alone, Sioran tries not to use the power of the law level. He once did an experiment, using the power of rules in the maze. That happened on the 49th floor. He just used the power of the law level. He felt the strong resistance of the maze rules. Then the labyrinth underwent an astonishing change, far exceeding the one on the 27th floor of Zagnath. The labyrinth first let out a shrill cry, and then the ceiling and the floor almost completely cracked. The floor master Barrel, who was originally in the cave room 4.7 deep in the floor, appeared directly from the ground. With the blessing of the labyrinth, its value at that time was about 4.9. In addition, countless monsters were bred from the cracks in the ceiling and the floor at the same time. All signs indicate that the labyrinth is disgusted with the law used by Sioran. Worried that continuing would cause more unknown changes, Sioran chose to stop. It was originally a test of the labyrinth, and he had already obtained the desired result. Moreover, continuing the experiment might eventually lead to a higher level of existence. If Orario were to be destroyed for this reason, it would be meaningless. After all, the girl he loved enjoyed life in the city. After taking back his own law, Sioran flattened the floor with just his sword skills. Since then, he had a guess in his heart. His legal principles and the power of gods belong to the level of the essence of the world. According to common sense, even if there is a certain confrontation between the maze and the gods. But the power at the rule level should be interoperable, because they are in the same world. The power they use is a certain embodiment of the concept of the world. Although Ran came from the outside world, he has already analyzed his own legal principles. He can use his own rules at will and is no longer suppressed. However, when he used the legal principles in the maze, the strong sense of rejection made Ran still remember it. So, he speculated like this. The underground maze is a different world. The heaven and the underworld are one. The life that died on the land of the underworld will be ferried by the death god of the heaven. After cleansing the soul of the dead, let it be reborn again. So the heaven and the underworld form a complete cycle. This is the most basic principle of the world, life and death. A long time ago, Ran asked his own goddess, "Have the gods in heaven seen the souls of monsters?" Hestia's answer was no. So Ran had two ideas at the time. First, monsters do not belong to complete life at all. They originally have no soul. So their souls will not return to heaven after death. The gods in charge of death naturally have never seen their souls. Another idea is that the underground labyrinth is actually the underground world. Compared to the cycle formed by heaven and the underworld, it has achieved it alone. Monsters actually have souls, but their souls do not return to heaven. Instead, they are directly absorbed by the underground labyrinth and then reborn. This is the life and death in the underground labyrinth. And the so-called big hole may be the passage connecting the two worlds. Otherwise, why don't the gods with great power directly close this big hole? Instead, they chose to build the white giant tower on top of it. Ran's previous thoughts actually lean towards the first one. But now he is more suspicious of the second one, especially after meeting Lei Yi. If the underground labyrinth belongs to the same world as the underworld and the heaven, then he should not have such a strong resistance at the rule level. It is understandable to reject him as an outsider, but why would they prohibit the gods from entering? The essence of gods is the embodiment of the concept of the world. Why would self reject self? This is obviously contradictory. Perhaps it is precisely because they belong to different worlds that they will conflict in essence. Is the power of Uranus also affecting it from this aspect? The monster riots that often occurred in ancient times gradually stopped. The labyrinth is alive, there is no doubt about it. But it does not seem to have an independent will, as if it is acting only on instinct. In the face of the power that Ran initially showed, it only sent out a Leave 9 scavenger. There are no monsters at the god level, it seems to have some mechanism. It was with this consideration that Ran did not continue to explore. He was worried that in the end, there would be something above doomsday. After all, he had temporarily designated the underground maze as the underground world. Ran would of course be wary of this world that was already full of unknowns. He was not afraid, but he was not a brainless reckless man. For enemies that might be at the world level, he did need to learn more. So after that experiment, Ran tried not to use the law in the maze. These monsters were in the ordinary level. Even if he stood there motionless, they could not touch him. This was the difference in the essence of life, not to mention that he had a miracle from the sky. Therefore, it made no difference whether he used the law or not. Moreover, this was only temporary, just like when he first came to Orario. He only needed an opportunity to analyze the laws of the maze. And the pair of golden wings has given him a glimmer of hope. P.S. The picture shows a Lishi. Underground world is purely the author's imagination, please be gentle. At the beginning of the month, I would like to ask for flowers and monthly tickets. Friends who are interested can vote a little. Thank you for your continued support. Chapter 72, The Monster Who Wants to Eat. Without thinking too much about the underground maze, Ran retracted his scattered thoughts. He is now just a disaster. He does not have enough foundation to resist the world-level enemy. Although this enemy does not seem to have a complete consciousness. Ran did not focus on the analysis of the maze for the time being. After the miracle of soul materialization was completed. In addition to accumulating the understanding of legal principles, the rest is to try to analyze the magic of favor. He saw an opportunity to go further in this. However, it should be said that it is worthy of the magic created by the gods with great effort. Sioran has not yet fully understood this magic. Roar. The roar of the monster attracted everyone's attention. They have discovered Sioran and his friends. Almost all the monsters in the middle layer can be seen here. It is like a monster feast, full of manic murderous aura. However, Sioran can clearly sense something other than the murderous aura of the monster. That is, hunger. Although it is a bit inexplicable, he did feel it. The group of monsters gathered in front of him seemed to be craving for something. With a little curiosity, Sioran looked at the blonde girl beside him and said to her softly, "Isai, don't use magic later. You have just completed the sublimation, so you can use these monsters to familiarize yourself with your current ability values." After defeating Udeos, the girl has achieved the great feat of upgrading. Loki naturally updated her level for her, and now her sword princess is 4.6. However, adventurers have a window period after they have just completed the sublimation. They need to adapt to their evolved bodies, and the group of monsters in front of them can obviously serve as a whetstone. After all, Sioran not only taught her humanity, but also more straightforward sword skills. *7. As soon as the voice fell, Aisi took the initiative to attack. She did not call on her own wind, but only relied on her own sword to fight the enemy. It seems that the girl herself is also very curious about her current strength. She wants to quickly adapt to her current physical ability and achieve a balance between spirit and body. Seeing that fearless golden figure, the other girls were also aroused with an inexplicable desire to win. Immediately afterwards, Philwace and Alice chased after them at the same time. The heroic red-haired swordsman kept swinging his sword in the monster group, as if he was in an empty space. Any malicious intentions that tried to get close to the girl would be crushed by her hot sword. A hill of monster remains gradually appeared around Alice. Not far away, the cold elf girl performed parallel chanting while attacking the monster. Parallel chanting is an advanced technique that combines combat and magic chanting. Normally, a high degree of concentration is required when casting magic. Only in this way can we control the flow of our own magic power and weave bombardment too. Therefore, being distracted during the chanting process is a fatal mistake. If you fail to master the skills of parallel chanting, it is very likely that the magic power will explode accidentally during the battle and you will be destroyed. This is a profound combat skill, and few magicians can master it. There are 4 main actions required for parallel chanting on the battlefield: attack or defense, move, dodge, and chant. For most magicians, concentrating on weaving magic spells has already consumed all their minds. Not to mention that they have to perform such complex actions at the same time. Therefore, magicians who do not have a certain degree of confidence will not try parallel chanting too. The 2 elf girls in the field are obviously people who have mastered this skill. Different from ordinary magic swordsmen who master parallel chanting. Lu and Fearwazy are more versatile fairy warriors. Magic swordsmen are usually in the middle of the team, and tend to move turrets. Their biggest trump card is still their own bombardment magic. Lu and Fearwazy are on top of this, and they also have superb melee skills. They can act as vanguards and chant bombardment magic at the same time. Especially Fearwazy, Sioran has conducted targeted training on her melee skills. Lu, who has experienced the Dark Period, is good at hand-to-hand combat. 2 fairies with perfect fighting skills and looks. They are clearing the monsters on the field at an exaggerated speed, as if they are comparing who can do it faster. Isai is completely using sword skills to fight the enemy. She is adapting to the current physical condition. Even without the familiar wind around her, the monsters can't touch her. The girl is as soft as a feather, dancing among the monsters, perfectly avoiding all their attacks, while using the cold sword light to strike mercilessly. The golden hair shone brightly under the light. The sword in his hand was extremely sharp, and the silver cold light was rampant in the battlefield. Even though there were many monsters, they were only middle-level monsters after all. /B. The passage ahead had been completely cleared by the girls. Only the ashes and magic stones on the ground proved that there had been an exaggerated group of monsters here. There were 3 food warehouses on the 24th floor. According to the previous route of the monsters, they came from the food warehouse in the north. After determining the direction, Sioran led the girls to continue moving forward. The food warehouse in the underground maze is a space for providing supplies for monsters. The terrain where it is located is generally a huge hole. There are many stone pillars formed by quartz in the depths of the hole. Liquids with extremely high nutritional value will seep out from it. Those liquids are the favorite food of monsters and can promote their growth. Therefore, the terrain around the food warehouse often changes for this reason. All of them are changed into holes that can adapt to the towering quartz. Wow, so disgusting. Seeing the scene in front of her, Alexei couldn't help but exclaim. Now they were walking in the passage leading to the granary. But there was an unspeakable wall of flesh in front of them, blocking them from going on. The swollen green wall of flesh exuded an unpleasant stench, like a tumor in a maze. It made people feel sick from the bottom of their hearts and caused discomfort. Have you seen this thing before? Sioran waved his hand to isolate the odor and looked at Alexei and the others beside him. He and the girls of the family had never been to the granary before. There was no need for them to explore here, it was just a supply station for monsters. So it was not clear whether this wall of flesh existed in the past. No, although I haven't been here many times. But I'm sure this thing never existed before. Lu Qing's cold voice sounded, and his tone was very certain. In the past, when attacking the Dark faction, some of the other party's trainers would try to escape into the granary, in an attempt to die together. Therefore, the girls of Astria's family had come here several times for this purpose. Really? Then it seems that someone should be waiting for us inside. Hearing Liu's answer, Sioran roughly understood why there were so many monsters at the previous intersection. It seems that the essence of the monster surge on the 24th floor is monster transfer. The hungry monsters found this meat wall that blocked their food. Naturally, they went to the other 2 food warehouses. And it happened to overlap with the route explored by the adventurers on this floor. Therefore, in the eyes of the adventurers, the number of monsters on this floor has increased dramatically. In fact, the hungry monsters are forced to move. No wonder the group of monsters just now were so eager. It turns out that they all want to eat. The length and width of the meat wall in front of them are about 10 meters, perfectly blocking the passage. There is no gap, as if it was specially designed. In addition, there is a little warm breath rising from the meat wall. It is still breathing according to a certain rhythm, like a living thing. Fei'erwazi, use magic to unfold it. Yes. Hearing the boy's order, the elf girl began to chant magic without hesitation. The holy staff of destroying evil, sweep away my enemies. The staff of the supreme god, Dionysus. The super short song was quickly woven. The blue and purple interweaving lightning turned into an angry dragon, and instantly swallowed the wall in front of them. As the obstacles were removed, Sioran and the others continued to go deeper into the cave. Not long after they left, the scattered pieces of the meat wall squirmed and regenerated at an astonishing speed. Return to the original appearance. These are all corpses of monsters. On the way, Kaguya found that the ground was full of things similar to dust. Although no magic stone was seen. But there were many special dropped items, which were undoubtedly the remains of monsters. However, why did the adventurers who defeated the monsters not take these rare items away? Kaguya was puzzled. Because it was not humans who defeated these monsters. Kaguya. Sioran knew what the girl was thinking and solved the puzzle directly. Then he looked at the blonde girl who was staring at him. Ace, it seems that the guy hiding behind and the red-haired woman who attacked you should be companions. Or maybe it was her. These monsters should have been eaten by the enhanced species. It was discovered before on the 50th floor. Monsters with colorful magic stones in their bodies will react to magic power. And the magic stones in the monsters are originally a collection of magic power. Therefore, the corpses of the monsters around are probably the traces left by the mutated monsters such as the piranha plant. Just like the group of worms that ate the strong dragon. The enhanced species naturally only need magic stones. For them, the fallen props are simply garbage. Tisk cannibalism. It really makes me feel sick. Kaguya narrowed her eyes slightly, full of disgust for the enhanced species mentioned by Sioran. Not long after walking, Sioran and the girls arrived at the entrance of the big cave, and then looked up tacitly. The sound of constant friction sounded, and all I saw was colorful. The hideous giant mouth slowly opened, and disgusting mucus dripped from the petals. An astonishing number of carnivorous plants fell from the ceiling. The walls in the cave were full of previously swollen pieces of meat. The holy grail of destruction, transformed into a shield. The moment she heard the voice, Fearwazy began to chant the super short text. The rich adventure experience made the girl instinctively choose defensive magic. The white magic circle rose under her feet, and a huge amount of magic power gathered around her. The supreme god, the holy grail of salvation. As the song sounded, a barrier symbolizing the girl's pure heart appeared above the team. All the piranhas that tried to attack were forced back and fell to the ground around them. Don't get close to Lord Jiren. Dirty monster. Fulvi stared at the hideous piranhas in front of her coldly. Her red eyes were filled with murderous intent, and her other hand was on the long sword at her waist. Any monster that tried to come forward would be ruthlessly killed by the girl. She would never let such an ugly thing get close to the boy. At the same time, at the moment when the magic barrier dissipated, Alice and the others automatically dispersed, each responsible for clearing the piranhas in an area. 880. This is the deepest part of the big hole. The dark red light spread throughout the cave, and there were disgusting lumps all around. There was a huge quartz column in the space, and two figures were standing next to it. Revis, there are intruders. The masked man reminded the red-haired woman beside him. Oh. Hearing this, the woman showed a little interest. Then she looked at the inner wall of the cave and waved her hand gently in front of her. Then the swollen flesh kept squirming, and finally reflected a picture. The scene reflected inside was Sioran and the girls who had just entered the big cave. The red-haired woman was full of interest when she saw a certain blonde figure. But when she noticed the black-haired boy next to the girl, her pupils suddenly shrank. Then she looked at the man next to her calmly and said to him lightly, "They will be handed over to you, give me the orb. I'm going to the ground." After saying that, she didn't wait for the man to respond. The red-haired woman named Rui Wisai took a green orb and gradually disappeared. On the battlefield, Sioran looked at the group of monsters fighting with the girls with a little boredom. He had noticed a peeping sight before, and thought it was the guy in the dark. In order not to alert the enemy, he did not clear the field directly. He was worried that he would scare away those hiding guys. In recent years, the only ones who had seen him take action were the girls around him. The other adventurers and hidden enemies did not know how powerful he was. So they might have some luck. There was another reason, that is, the monster in front of him was too weak. It was not even qualified to be the basic nutrients of the goddess blade. Sioran was naturally too lazy to take action, and just admired the dance of the girls. The monster in front of him was one level stronger than the ordinary piranha plant. They were obviously enhanced species. Just like adventurers will accumulate experience points when they knock down monsters, and finally achieve the feat of upgrading. And if the monster devours the magic stone of the same kind, it will also produce a similar effect. Just as the ability value of the adventurer is updated, they will also upgrade. Many of the piranha plants in the field have reached 4.3. For middle-level adventurers, this group of monsters is an absolute nightmare. But that's all. As the girls advanced, the number of piranhas decreased at a visible speed. There is a gap between Level 3 and Level 6 that is difficult to cross. What's more, the girls in the field are not ordinary Level 6. There are also 3 who can cross levels. Well, I hope the guy hiding in the dark will not be scared. Otherwise, it will be too boring. Pictured is Fearwazy. Chapter 73 I don't have. Roar, roar, roar. The monsters that were brutally abused by the first-level adventurers kept wailing. Their defenses and sharp teeth that they used to be proud of were all useless. They were as fragile as paper in front of the cold light of the girls. Blood kept splattering, and the ground was full of fallen petals and dirt. Tisk tisk. So miserable. Looking at the carnivorous plants that were unilaterally slaughtered by Alish and the others, Sioran felt a little emotional for them. No matter what kind of attack, it couldn't touch the girls with amazing physical fitness. They could only turn into wailing under the cold sword light. Undead. The rest of the monsters that tried to attack Sioran were all blocked by Fearwazy. The elf girl who loves nature and praises life is more like an indifferent Valkyrie at this moment. She crushed all the malicious fangs mercilessly. Without wasting too much time, the girls had swept all the carnivorous plants in the field. Then without any hesitation, the team continued to move forward into the depths of the big cave. There will be a certain number of attacks every time they pass a certain distance. It is obvious that someone is deliberately blocking the progress of the team in the dark. It seems that they don't want us to go in. Looking at the constantly appearing carnivorous plants, Sioran had a playful smile on his face. The more they didn't want him to enter, the more interested he became. Is this a unique hobby? Sioran was now very curious about what was hidden in the deepest part of the cave. It would actually make the people hiding in the dark so desperate to hinder their progress. Tat. A dark red halo appeared in front of them, and Sioran led the girls to the core location of the grain warehouse. The area in the depths of the cave was much larger than before, and there were many quartz pillars standing at the same time. In the middle, there was an extra large quartz pillar, emitting a dark red light. Each grain warehouse on the 24th floor had a main pillar similar to red crystal. This main pillar would permeate a large amount of liquid with nutritional value. And it would emit light at any time, acting as a light source in the depths of the cave. What? This is nothing compared to the previous monster. Alice looked at the red crystal-like main pillar with a sigh. The girl was naturally not because of the huge red stone pillar in front of her. Instead, it is attached to the main pillar. 3 monsters that look like the man-eating plants before are tightly entwined with the red crystal. The main pillar, which is at least 30 meters long, is almost covered by the monster's tentacles and roots. This size is not inferior to the floor master, and even exceeds it. At this time, a sucking sound clearly echoed in the cave. The monsters in front of them are frantically absorbing the nutrient liquid in the main pillar. The light of the red crystal will become so dim, it must be their masterpiece. The monster similar to the floor master is like a juicer, constantly absorbing the liquid of the red crystal. Seeing the scene in front of him, Sioran's expression became a little subtle. How can this be so similar to some healthy pictures? Master Sioran. Fearwazy seemed to sense something, and her deep red eyes glanced at the boy fiercely. The girl who had charged with him many times naturally knew what the boy was thinking now. Although she knew that she was still on the battlefield. However, some blushing scenes still kept appearing in the mind of the pure white fairy. although Fulvice's face maintained its usual coldness and calmness. But her deep red eyes gradually shone with some seductive waves. A faint blush began to rise on her fair skin. Ahem, I didn't. Sioran was a little guilty. It's not that he was thinking wrongly, but the scene in front of him was indeed a little. Well, it was his problem. Alice and Lou were both blank sheets in this regard. After all, someone had not found a suitable opportunity to eat them. The two girls naturally did not know the deep meaning of the conversation between Fulvice and Sioran. Kaguya narrowed her eyes slightly, always feeling that there was something fishy about the communication between the two. That's below. Ace's voice interrupted the somewhat subtle atmosphere in the field. The girl noticed that there was a trace similar to a ball at the root of the monster's entanglement with the main pillar. This made her unconsciously think of the fetus orb she had seen in this Rivera town before. The shape and size were very similar, and it looked like it had just been taken away not long ago. Sent away in advance. Sioran also noticed the mark, which was obviously new. Suddenly, the swollen walls around the red crystal cracked, and a group of people with mysterious identities appeared. These people were all wearing black robes covering their upper bodies. They were wearing headscarves and forehead protectors that covered their heads and mouths. These people who concealed their identities were looking at Sioran and his friends, who suddenly broke in surprise. The Dark Faction. Seeing the way these people were dressed, Alice instantly recognized their origins. A girl who pursued justice and order. Naturally, she had dealt with the dark factions that disturbed the stability of the Maze City. Although they were hiding, they all revealed the unique crazy atmosphere of the Dark Faction. Seeing their mortal enemy, the girls of the Astria family put away their smiles. Looking coldly at the enemy in front of them, Justice called out loudly in their hearts. "Hello, rats hiding in the underground maze." Sioran greeted them casually. His eyes were fixed on the man wearing a helmet and white clothes. Whether it was his clothes or his aura, he was completely different from the Dark Faction next to him. The man in white was full of chaotic aura, which was similar to the mystery. Sioran saw through his nature at a glance. Not a human, nor a monster, but an abnormal species between the two. If you have to say it, it should be Weird Man. The man in white had a magic stone similar to the monster on his body. That was the colorful magic stone with rich colors. Like those carnivorous plants, it swallowed the magic stone. Looking at the guy in front of him, Sioran became a little interested. I didn't expect that in addition to Lei Yi, there was actually such a species in between. But the guy in front of him was too incomplete, so there was no need to test it. Compared with the stunning golden wings, this white-haired man was more like a hybrid. But after seeing his existence, how to analyze the maze in the future has been roughly decided in Sioran's mind. How could you let them break in here? Damn it! There's even a hero among the stinky women of the Australia clan. Someone in the Dark Faction seemed to have recognized Sioran and the others' identities. The surprise in his eyes instantly turned into astonishment, and he looked at the sudden intruder in disbelief. The atmosphere in the field was becoming dull, all because of the two characters spit out by the robed man. Those carnivorous plants can't stop them at all. I know these women from the Australia clan, but what does hero mean? Are you talking about the kid in front of you? Faced with the questioning of the Dark Faction members, the man in white answered indifferently. The tone was obviously puzzled, but he had never heard of this title. After hearing their conversation, Sioran thought about it in his heart. The guy in white didn't know his information, but he knew Yelai and the others. And he was very hostile, obviously he was the enemy of the girls before. But judging from the information that he didn't know himself, it is likely that he has not learned about the surface information after becoming a weird guy. He used to be a member of the Dark Faction, but now he has become a different species in the maze. After a brief thought, Sioran knew the other party's information. The remnants of the dark faction and the weirdos hiding in the underground maze. Do something, the remnants of the dark faction, become the cornerstone of protecting her. The man in white raised his head arrogantly and gave orders to the robed man beside him. He didn't take the uninvited guest in front of him seriously at all. His time had been stopped long ago, and he didn't know the latest news at all. Dark faction. Hearing the man's words, Alyssa's eyes flashed with amazing light. Without any hesitation, the girl took out the long sword at her waist. At the same time, wisps of red flame surrounded her. The pretty face was full of determination, and the bell of justice had already sounded. Then, he went straight to the enemy in front of him. Kill them. The members of the dark faction looked at each other. They rushed towards Sioran and the others frantically, their eyes full of death and madness. They knew they were no match for the monster in front of them. But the long-cherished wish in their hearts allowed them to offer everything. Evil people cannot be forgiven, all of you stay today. Hyaga's eyes condensed slightly, and the gentleness of the past turned into a cold chill. The white palm tightly grasped the sword at the waist, and the fierce killing intent gathered here. Although it was not unsheathed, there was a sense of sharpness around. The malice of the dark faction completely dissipated in front of Kaguya. It was as if there was an invisible blade beside her, cutting everything. For the girl who was good at IAI/, she was more dangerous when she was sheathed than when she was unsheathed. Wake up. Seeing the girls of Astria's family fighting against the remnants of the dark faction, Ace called her own wind and took the initiative to attack the remaining white-haired man. She had not yet fully adapted to her sublimated body and needed a certain intensity of battle. The enemy in front of her obviously met the standard. Sioran, who understood this, did not take action, but just supported him and Fulvice on the side. The gap in level cannot be made up by such a number of people. Piranha plant. With the cold call of the man in white, the ground, ceiling, and walls were like monsters born in a maze. An astonishing number of carnivorous plants appeared one after another, and the cave turned into a colorful ocean in the blink of an eye. Monsters that did not distinguish between enemies and friends joined the battlefield, making the current situation even more chaotic. It seemed that the man in white did it deliberately, and the attacks of the carnivorous plants in the field became extremely violent. Occasionally, a few unlucky people in long robes were swallowed by the carnivorous plants. Broken limbs, blood, wailing, screaming. Chaos filled the entire battlefield, causing the elf girl next to him to frown slightly. Fairwazy, these people are members of the dark faction. There is no reason, only madness, and there is no need for mercy and kindness to treat them. Just destroy them completely. Sioran looked at his fairy girl and reminded her gently. His tone was cold and stern, and he did not treat them as people at all. The dark faction now has only a few lingering remnants. Therefore, there was no trouble in Orario before, and Sioran had never brought the girls to see it. Songsi and the others had more experience in fighting monsters. As for the skills to deal with people, Sioran taught them, but they rarely encountered such opponents. But now the situation in the Maze City has changed. The forces hidden in the dark are ready to move. As the first-class family of Orario, they will definitely encounter members of the dark faction in the future. Therefore, Sioran hopes that the kind-hearted girl will abandon the kindness in her heart for these guys. Alice and Ace have experienced the most chaotic and dark period in Orario. They all know how crazy and paranoid the members of these dark factions are. The skills to deal with people are basically honed from these guys. Lilihao, therefore, Sioran is not worried about them, but just reminded Filawazi. I understand, Lord Sioran. Filawazi naturally knows what he means. As long as it is his expectation, she will try her best to respond. Although the elf girl loves life and nature, if it is for the boy she admires, she can abandon everything and do everything. Of course, Sioran will not let her do this. Just give up your kindness to the members of the dark faction. Comrades, don't be afraid of death. The world after death is our destination, and we offer our loyalty to our gods. As if they were aware that they were about to lose, the members of the dark faction began to boost morale. Someone directly pulled the small box with a fuse. It contained a certain number of fire stones, which was their common method. Boom 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 boom. Accompanied by the flash of light, the explosion sounded continuously in the cave. This was a suicidal attack by the enemy, and they wanted to die with the girls. But Alish and the others would naturally not fall for such a trick. Easily avoided the impact of the explosion without suffering any damage. Tisk this method again, so I hate the dark faction attack. Kaguya was slightly shocked, her delicate face full of disgust. Even though it was not the first time they fought, she was always disgusted by the hands of the dark faction members. They completely lost their humanity and were willing to destroy everything to achieve their goals. Such behavior was completely contrary to the justice she upheld. Seeing the scene on the field, Fearwazi understood Sioran's words even more. The enemy in front of her was not a human, but just a crazy obsession. The elf girl would not have any psychological burden to kill such an existence. Chapter 74, Long-awaited exercise. Boom boom boom. Roar. The deepest cave in the granary is filled with chaos and blood. Members of the dark faction who are not afraid of death continue to take the approach of mutual destruction. Crazy declarations, the miserable roars of monsters, echoing in this empty cave all the time. The originally colorful ocean gradually stained with a bright blood color. The ground is full of human remains and carnivorous plant corpses. There are several extremely bright figures in the red picture. There is no trace of blood, only the passionate belief and momentum are boiling. Just a group of fools bound by gods. The man in white who was fighting with AISI saw the scene in the field and mocked frivolously. His eyes were full of coldness and cruelty, and he didn't care about the death of his companion. He was even full of disdain for the gods he mentioned. Wind. As the girl called softly, the wind in the space gradually gathered. Facing the enemy in front of her, AISI had no hesitation or mercy. The feeling he gave her was very similar to that of the red-haired woman. There was no human emotion, only the coldness and cruelty of a monster. No need to show mercy, just kill directly. Realizing that she had almost adapted to the current ability value, AISI began to be serious. The attitude of the man in front of her made her feel unhappy, and she wanted to make a quick decision. The golden figure danced softly in the air, and the surrounding wind turned into close-fitting armor. The carnivorous plants that tried to get close to the girl were directly crushed by the invisible wind blade. What? The sudden acceleration of the girl made the man in white unable to react at all. The golden figure in his sight suddenly disappeared, and appeared in front of him the next second. The silver sword light was facing his face. The sharpness in front of him made his face under the helmet hurt constantly. Crack. The man in white just managed to dodge the attack by instinct. But the helmet he was wearing was directly split open, revealing the true face hidden inside. You are Olivas Act. You should have died on the 27th floor. Seeing the true appearance of the enemy, Xie couldn't help but widen his pupils. With a little surprise on his face, he didn't expect that the other party was actually a former undead. The girl who often fought with the dark faction in the past naturally knew the identity of the man in front of her. Kaguya and Lu also stared at Olivas in front of them. There was obvious doubt in their eyes. Ah, that's right. I did die in the past, but I'm resurrected again. Olivas had a trance and crazy smile on his face, and then pulled open his robe. What on earth are you? Looking at the scene in front of her, Kaguya did not hide her disgust. Olivas's current body did not look like a human in the past. The skin on his body was stained with a disgusting yellow-green color. It was very similar to the worm monster Sioran had encountered on the 50th floor before. The most noticeable thing was his upper body. There was a colorful crystal in the center of his chest, which was constantly flashing. The wound on his face that was just left by ice was recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. Olivas had a human appearance except for that face. The rest were monster characteristics. Lord Sioran, well, a hybrid. Sioran understood what Fierwazi was thinking. The extremely incongruous scene in front of her reminded her of the female worm monster. They were covered in the same color and both had the colorful magic stone. When I was dying, she gave me a second life. Instead of that ridiculous favor. Ignoring the shock of the girl in the field, Wan Wutong talked about the past. He opened his hands as if he was hugging something. He was extremely crazy about the she in his words and despised the favor of the gods. As soon as she was mentioned, Olivas's mouth expanded to the maximum, and his eyes were full of madness. This expression was not much different from the remnants of the previous dark faction. It is obvious that he has changed his beliefs. It is no longer the evil god he followed in the past, but the she who gave him life again. Olivas actor. Seeing this madness similar to that of a few years ago, Alice was completely sure of his identity. Olivas actor, nicknamed White-Haired Ghost, adventurer level V.3. In the past, he belonged to the Dark faction and was very active in the Dark Ages. Therefore, he was set as a bounty target by the guild. At that time, he was one of the masterminds who destroyed the stability of the Maze City. And he led the nightmare of the 27th floor 6 years ago, causing the death of many adventurers. BFBH. The essence of that nightmare of the 27th floor was actually a collective monster gift caused by the Dark faction. They led all the monsters on the floor, including the lonely king of the labyrinth, into the trap. Then they induced the followers who were fighting against the Dark faction at that time to enter it. In the end, that layer of the maze turned into a sea of blood and corpses, causing the death of a large number of adventurers. The nightmare of the 27th floor is a pain that all the followers who experienced that period will never forget. The girls of Astria's family naturally remembered everything that happened at that time. But that's why they were confused. The guild had already confirmed the death of the white-haired ghost. The main god he followed was also sent back to heaven. However, the dead man now appeared in front of them again. What is your purpose? Kaguya stared at the undead in front of her. Rather than destroying him directly, the girl wanted to know their purpose. No matter what they believe in, the essence of this group of people is always crazy. Seedling bed. Unexpectedly, Olivachi answered Kaguya's question directly without hiding anything. Or rather, there is no need to hide it now. We use the food storage in the middle as a transit station, and let the giant flower lay the piranha plant. So that the monsters in the deep can reproduce in the middle and then transport them to the surface. Olivas had a cruel smile on his face, and he didn't seem to care about his purpose being known. What is the she you are talking about? Sioran was not interested in weak monsters. Even if more monsters from the deep were transported to the surface, he could kill them instantly. So he didn't care about such trivial matters. Instead, he was a little curious about the existence that gave the white-haired ghost a second life. She is a much greater existence than those stupid and incompetent gods. She wants to see the sky on the surface, and she should rule this land. Olivas looked up at the top of the floor, his eyes full of fanaticism. Looking at the white-haired ghost who suddenly went crazy in front of him, Sioran gave up the idea of asking more questions. Probably because he saved him at the moment of death. So as long as she is mentioned, he will completely lose his mind. She should not be in the underground maze, so could it be an existence in the unknown depths of the maze? Sioran has been interested for the first time in a long time. The green fetus gem was probably made by her. Through this gem, the common sense that only underground mazes can breed monsters was broken. In addition, she also gave dying adventurers colorful magic stone to make them her messengers. Sioran can clearly sense the will of Olivas being induced. After he became a monster, he was no longer under her control. She is guiding the group she created. Judging from letting the white-haired ghost bring the monster to the surface, her goal should be to destroy the labyrinth city and lift the lid that covered it. According to Anayo's plan, she will be liberated soon, ha 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 ha. Giant flower. Accompanied by crazy shouts, the 3 giant flowers wrapped around the main pillar left one after another. But the tentacles at their roots still surrounded the red crystal. The monsters that have been absorbing nutrients here for a long time began to come out of the cage. At the same time, an astonishing number of carnivorous plants emerged in the cave again. The girls of Astria's family were surrounded by monsters again. With the help of many carnivorous plants, the 3 giant flowers restrained Alice and others who wanted to rush over. The colorful ocean formed by the monsters tried to swallow all the adventurers in the field. Even with the protection of the wind, AISI was also temporarily slowed down by the many carnivorous plants. The girls in the front were slowed down in their attack rhythm. In contrast, the battlefield in the back seemed to be much easier. The black-haired boy had a casual smile on his face, and his deep pupils were full of calmness. It seemed that he didn't take the ferocious monsters around him seriously at all. The carnivorous plants around him were defeated cleanly by the pure white fairy girl before they got close. Seeing the scene in front of him, for some reason, a trace of double and coldness rose in Vass's heart. The boy's careless attitude made him full of murderous intent. But when he met those eyes, he felt his soul trembling again. What a joke! I have received the gift of her, how can I be afraid? The white-haired ghost shook his head fiercely, as if to disperse some emotions. Then he loudly ordered the 3 giant flowers. Giant flower! Live with all your strength and drain all your strength. Then wither. Hearing this, the giant flower waste that was originally in the middle of the pavilion suddenly rioted. Countless rhizomes wrapped around the red crystal main column, trying their best to absorb its nutrients. The color of the giant flower continued to deepen, and a huge amount of magic power gathered in it. It seemed that something was being nurtured. Cracks appeared on the 30-meter-long quartz main column, and the light became extremely weak. At the same time, countless flower buds bulged on the rhizomes of the giant flower, and then expanded rapidly. The next second, all the flower buds bloomed. When the storm formed by the pollen dissipated, the cave became a paradise for monsters in the blink of an eye. After the man-eating plant was nurtured, the epidermis of the giant flower quickly lost its color, and the originally thick rhizomes gradually dried up. The 3 giant flowers withered quickly, and finally turned into ashes. Roar, 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 roar. The space was filled with the monsters' excited roars, interweaving into a chaotic melody. The number of carnivorous plants born in the field exceeded imagination, almost filling the entire grain warehouse. At a glance, there were at least thousands of them. Tisk tisk, it's really spectacular. Ace, Alice, you all come back. Sioran slightly sighed at the astonishing number of carnivorous plants in the cave. Then he asked the girls on the front line to stop fighting. Without any hesitation. When the young man spoke, the girls returned to his side the next moment. Let's exercise after such a long time. Accompanied by a gentle whisper. The pitch-black goddess blade appeared in the air, and the silver light kept flowing on the sword. A dazzling flash appeared in the originally dim cave. The group of monsters that roared excitedly before suddenly stopped roaring. The terrifying breath rose in the field, oppressing them so that they dared not make any extra movements. The monsters' instincts reminded them, a fatal threat was coming. Ignoring the scene in front of him, Sioran gently raised the pitch-black long sword, and the air was instantly split by the sword. A sword mark appeared on the ceiling at the top. The walls of the cave wailed under the sword energy. Then the long sword fell quietly, and the silver sword light suddenly rolled up a terrifying gust of wind. The violent interweaving of sword and wind was wantonly ravaging everything in the cave. When everything calmed down, the grain warehouse had been completely flattened. It's really as exaggerated as before. Kaguya looked at the boy who had cleared the field in the blink of an eye, and said with a little emotion. No matter how many times she has seen this scene, she will still be shocked by the boy's power. Just an ordinary slash can achieve this level. This makes her feel both yearning and helpless. The gap is too big. Wow Xiaoran, you are still so powerful, it seems that I still have to work hard. I can't slack off in maintaining justice. Alexei is still full of energy and has not been hit at all. The boy's words at the beginning have been deeply buried in her heart. No matter when she sees his power, the girl will no longer be confused. There was only the motivation to keep moving forward, chasing the high spirits of that figure. So powerful. Although it was not the first time she saw some of the boy's strength, AIC's face still had a hint of surprise. Well, you will have a chance to achieve it in the future anyway. Xiaoran didn't care, he had tried his best to control his strength. This level is not even an attack. Like him, the girl who has a long time will eventually reach this level. After all, they all have extremely high qualifications, and he is the biggest plug-in. The cave began to shake, and the ceiling and the surrounding walls began to fall off. Xiaoran, you are too hot. Liu looked at the boy helplessly. The previous attack had shattered the red crystal main pillar as the core. The main pillar supporting the grain warehouse disappeared, and this place would naturally begin to collapse. There is no way, the main pillar has been completely sucked dry by those giant flowers. If I don't destroy it, it will break by itself later. Xiaoran spread his hands without caring. It will collapse anyway, so it's better to be happy. Then before the food warehouse collapsed completely, he decisively took the girls away, and the investigation ended perfectly. The picture shows Kaguya. Chapter 75 Storyteller. Then we'll go back first. After returning to the surface, Alice said goodbye to Xiaoran and the others warmly. Apart from this commission, the girls of the Australia clan still have many other things to deal with. It's not so easy to be the guardian of the Maze City. It's a complicated task for them to patrol the area on weekdays. What's more, the kind-hearted girls always help residents in trouble. So most of their daily time is spent on maintaining the stability of Orario. Xiaoran will not interfere with their choices, which is the unique will of the girls. Although he is too lazy to care about these trivial things. But he is willing to give the girls a kindness to this Maze City. I will visit later, say hello to the goddess Australia for me. Xiaoran gently answered Alice. The gentle figure appeared in his mind. Every time he went to the Garden of Stars in the past, Xiaoran rarely saw Alice and the others. On the contrary, he became familiar with the goddess Australia. The goddess who upholds justice and order is not as cold and majestic as imagined. On the contrary, she is always gentle and compassionate. She just refuses to communicate with other opposite sexes. This makes Kaguya often complain whether her main god will be abducted one day. Then I will wait without expectation. Yamato Rinden said goodbye in his own style. I will bring your words to goddess Astrea, suddenly. Ryu responded seriously as always. After watching Alice and the others leave, Xiaoran said to his fairy girl. Fei Weisai, I still have something to discuss with Loki. Okay, Lord Xiaoran. Come back early. Fei Weisai understood what he meant and turned to walk alone in the direction of the family. Xiaoran followed Aisi back to the Dusk Pavilion. He has become more and more familiar with this journey recently. He can walk to the base camp of Loki's family with his eyes closed. Ah, Miss Aisi. As soon as the door of Twilight Pavilion opened, a certain red-haired goddess rushed out directly. The blonde girl dodged skillfully, and Loki fell directly. Her close contact with the ground made her tears overflow. Hey, Loki. Is your priesthood the earth? Seeing the embarrassed appearance of a certain goddess, a mocking smile hung on the corner of her mouth. Tisk you kid. My Isaitan was kidnapped by you for a date again, damn guy. The old man Uranus actually covered for you. Loki's face was full of envy and jealousy. This morning, when she found that Isai was missing, she went to ask Finn as usual. The answer she got was I don't know. Then they knew the girl's personality and they were a little anxious, worried that she would face some dangers alone. After all, she has been so stubborn since she was a child, but she has been much better in recent years. Just when they were about to go looking for her, they were stopped by a letter from the guild. It mentioned that Sword Princess and Hero were carrying out special tasks of the guild. Seeing this, Livalaya and the others were relieved. Only Loki was unhappy, always feeling that the chastity of his own cabbage was gradually in danger. Please give me flowers, 0141095115 Fala 144393381. Bang. Hearing the Lord God's irrelevant words, Aisi tripped her again with an expressionless face. Although I also want to date my lovely apprentice, today is business. We met a very interesting guy, Loki. Thinking of the news obtained in the grain warehouse today, Sioran's smile became playful. The riot of the monster festival seemed to have opened a prelude to something. Orario and the underground maze are becoming more and more interesting. Oh. Interesting. 0. Seeing the frivolous smile on the boy's mouth, Luigi narrowed his eyes slightly. In a hall somewhere in the Dusk Pavilion, all the high-ranking members of the Loki family have gathered. Sioran is lying leisurely on a soft sofa, which seems to be made of some high-grade leather. It is unusually loose and soft. The position next to him is usually occupied by the Amazon twins. His arms are wrapped in the familiar warmth and are full of comfort. Ignoring the vicious gaze of the red-haired goddess, Sioran slowly narrated everything he encountered on the 24th floor today. Isai is not suitable for this, although the girl's emotions are much richer now. But she does not have the ability to express all this clearly. Saying too much is still a bit troublesome for her now. So Sioran became a storyteller for the first time in a long time. The commission of the mysterious man in the guild, the essence of the sudden increase of monsters in the food warehouse. The remnants of the dark faction, the hybrid of humans and monsters weirds. She too who created the fetal gem and gave birth to monsters. The suspected unknown god Ernyo Xiao. Chapter 76, The Dead in the City. Hey, there are so many interesting things but they didn't invite me. Isai and the Argonauts are so mean, I want to go too. When Sioran finished talking about her experience today, Diona complained that they didn't take her with them. The energetic Amazon girl often doesn't know what to do to kill time. When she is not exploring the underground maze, she is always extremely bored. I didn't expect that I would miss so many interesting things today just by not paying attention. Diona regretted not finding Isai's trace in the morning. Yes, you must take me with you next time. Sioran. Dione was also dissatisfied, and her plump curves were tightly pressed against the boy. She also regretted not being able to participate in this maze trip. Well, I will definitely take you with me next time. Sioran comforted the Amazon twins who were a little emotional. He had not expected that the mysterious man's commission would encounter these things. At first, he thought it was just an ordinary investigation trip, acting as a last resort. So he did not notify Diona and the others. The commission included enough first-level adventurers. Sioran, I am a little distressed that you kidnapped my team members so casually. Finn smiled bitterly at the boy helplessly. He naturally knew the Amazon sister's feelings for the boy. If it was the request of the hero, there would probably be many members of the opposite S*X of his own clan running away. At that time, even if he, as the 857 leader of the team, stopped it, it would seem useless. After all, a girl in love does not make any sense. When thinking of that scene, the calm and wise brave man also felt a headache. Boy, you have had a rich experience today. Weird man, come back. Loki picked up the wine bottle beside him and took a big sip. As the wine went into his stomach, a satisfied look appeared on his face. His eyes unconsciously curved, skillfully hiding his thoughts. What do you think, Loki? Sioran looked at the red-haired goddess's actions with interest. He couldn't see through the mind of the gods, but he could probably sense a little. Loki should be in a very good mood now. Ha, thoughts? It may be a bit rash to say this, but dash. The underworld is like this, which makes me never get tired of playing. A hybrid of humans and monsters, this kind of existence that summons gods like us. All of them are the unknown that makes people's blood boil. Loki's narrowed eyes revealed a gap, which was filled with uncontrollable joy. For most gods in the lower world, everything in the lower world is just a game. They are addicted to this interesting game, relieving the boredom and emptiness of hundreds of millions of years. But the way they choose is slightly different. Most gods still look down on the people in the lower world, while a few choose to invest their own emotions. Loki is obviously the latter. While enjoying the life in the lower world, she also puts her heart in her family. However, her essence is still the evil god who pursues the unknown. It's just that she is much more restrained in front of her family. The unknown is indeed the most interesting. Sioran picked up the fruit wine in front of him and took a sip. He didn't think Loki's words were rash. He is indeed quite close to these gods in some ideas. Enjoying the fun of the journey and pursuing unknown challenges is also his essence. So he would not criticize Loki's behavior. Everyone is just a fun person with their own bottom line. Finn and the others are a little helpless. As one of the earliest old men to sign a contract with Loki, he certainly knows the character of his Lord God. Under the seemingly cynical appearance, there is an extremely sharp insight. As a Lord God, she is absolutely qualified and has her own charm. It's just that some of her personalities are really not flattering. For example, just like now. Weirds, her, dark factions. Any of these is enough to affect the stability of the Maze City. In Loki's eyes, they are all interesting unknowns. This makes Finn, the leader, feel a headache. He really enjoys watching the fun. At the same time, the brave man also noticed one thing. That is the boy on the sofa who made him helpless. He and his Lord God are inexplicably similar in this respect. He also did not take the future attackers seriously and only regarded it as an interesting game. No wonder Loki said that before. Finn now understands his Lord God's words a little bit. That joke about heroes becoming gods. Let's not talk about weirdos for now. Loki, are you familiar with the name Ernja? When I first heard it, it felt like the name of a god. Sioran asked Loki curiously. When he heard this name from the white-haired ghost at that time, his intuition told him that this was the name of a god. Er4. I haven't heard of it at all, but... Loki first fell into deep thought, as if searching in his mind whether this god existed. Then he was sure that he had never heard of this title, but he remembered something. In the language of our gods, Ernjo means one. The destroyer of the city. The moment the red-haired goddess' voice fell, the atmosphere in the hall suddenly became silent, and invisible pressure swept over. The destroyer of the city. The enemy dared to call himself so, and I think he had a certain confidence. The leader of the little people unconsciously looked at his thumb. The elegant royal elf closed one eye, as if considering future arrangements. The proud werewolf snorted disdainfully, full of his usual arrogance. Hee hee. A chuckle broke the silence in the field. The blonde girl, the Amazon twins, the royal elves? All couldn't help but look at the familiar boy. In their sight, The handsome face no longer had the gentle smile of the past. The corners of the boy's mouth widened slightly at this moment, and he even had a rare touch of frivolity. Then Loki, you can change its meaning in the future. With me here, the 3 words Ernyo will only mean the dead of the city. The calm words of the black-haired boy contained absolute confidence and madness. Clearly echoing in the ears of Loki's family, hitting their hearts hard. The air that was originally stagnant because of some characters was torn apart in an instant. The invisible pressure seemed so fragile in front of the owner of this voice. The boy expressed his will without reservation. No one refuted him who said this, just because he was the strongest. No one else. Seeing the boy's rare appearance at this time, Isai's golden eyes sparkled with a strange light. Some kind of exciting emotions rushed in her heart. Facing the unknown enemy, Sword Princess raised a high fighting spirit because of the boy's words. Ah, you are so brave, kid. Loki's eyes suddenly became terrifying. For a moment, it seemed that he returned to the cold look that instigated the gods to fight. Then he immediately returned to normal. However, I will admit only one thing, you are indeed qualified for this. Boy. After saying this, Loki took up the wine in his hand and drank it. For some reason, she felt that the taste of the wine was particularly strong today. She would never admit that it was brought by a certain hateful boy. 4. Finn looked at the boy who was leaning on the sofa casually. He said such words, but his face did not care at all. This is the capacity of a hero. Wow, as expected of the Argonauts, he. Diona, who came back to her senses, seemed very excited. She held the boy's arm tightly, with an innocent smile on her face. The boy's figure seemed to overlap with the fairy tale she saw for the first time. The simple Amazon girl did not understand what was boiling in her body. She could only action to vent the current mood. Although Shin on the other side did not speak, the light in her eyes was unusually shining. Sioran's rare madness before was deeply imprinted in her heart. Amazons are a competitive race. Although Shin and Tiona are slightly different from other Amazons. But the instincts in their blood are similar, and they will be attracted to the opposite S*X with strong strength. When they first met, the Amazon hero was full of favor for the boy. She didn't hate the boy's gentle appearance in the past. But now seeing his other side of madness, she found that this seemed to attract her more. The heart that was already pierced has already opened completely to the boy. Sure enough, he is my true prince. Shin looked at the boy beside her gently, and once again confirmed in her heart. Since the tavern, you really haven't changed at all. Sioran. Livali sighed in admiration. Since the first time they met, she discovered the pride in the boy's bones. The rare arrogance at this time made her more convinced. Treat everyone equally, whether she is a royal blood or a god. From another perspective, isn't this also a kind of self-confidence and pride? Whether it is a royal elf or a god. For him, they are just the scenery of the journey, not an insurmountable peak. Really powerful, you. Well, it's nothing. Sioran didn't care too much about the reaction of Loki's family, he just voted for his own ideas. Even if the so-called urban destroyer is a god, he didn't care too much. The god is indeed qualified to be his opponent, but that's all. It's not a great god like Uranus, Zeus, and Odin. As for whether the god hiding in the dark will be a great god, he didn't consider this possibility. This kind of personality that is more like a mouse makes it difficult to link him with Great God 4.9. Even if there is a very small probability, he will not be afraid. He has enough confidence even if it is not a world-level enemy. By the way, Loki, when are you going to start the expedition? Then Sioran remembered the joint expedition later and asked about the expedition time of Loki's family. After all, they will act together. You should ask Finn about this. Loki looked at his own little human leader, he knew these things best. The Hephaestus family has not yet prepared the weapons we need. It will probably be in the next few days. We are going to the goddess Hephaestus tomorrow. Finn looked at Sioran and told him about the current preparation progress. Really? Then I will go with you tomorrow. It happens that I haven't seen Hephaestus for a few days. Hearing Finn's answer, Sioran also prepared to go to the Hephaestus family. Me. The little human leader was speechless about someone's address, and more of admiration. This young man is really amazing, in every sense. Hey. You kid, you're not going to attack Hephaestus too. Loki was not so calm, his drunken face almost came to his face. Tisk, stay away from me, Loki. Sioran stopped the red-haired goddess with disdain. It was such a waste of her looks. Please give me some flowers and monthly tickets at the beginning of the month. Thank you friends for your continued support, I am very grateful. Chapter 77, The Great Evil. In the early morning, facing the golden warmth that spreads over the labyrinth city, Sioran and Firwise are heading to the residence of the Hephaestus family. Last night, he discussed the expedition with Finn for a while. He chose to return to the house directly, which made a certain red-haired goddess very happy. Whenever she saw Sioran staying in the Dusk Pavilion, she always worried that her overly enthusiastic family would go up and give it to her for free. At first, only the Amazon twins did not hide their affection. But later, as someone's reputation gradually became popular, they evolved at an exaggerated speed. As a result, more and more longing and admiration appeared in the family. This made her smile that often hung on the corner of her mouth twitch. Therefore, Loki was the only exception in the family who expected Sioran to leave. However, because the red-haired goddess was too happy yesterday, it attracted the dissatisfaction of the Amazon girl, and was beaten by her own family. So miserable. Loki. Retracting his slightly scattered thoughts, Sioran enjoyed the freshness brought by the early morning. Adventurers passing by on the street couldn't help but cast their eyes on them. Whether it was temperament or appearance, the boy and girl in front of them were particularly outstanding. What's more, they were all first-level adventurers standing at the top of the maze city. No matter where they went, they would be the focus of everyone. But due to long-standing habits, adventurers on the street didn't dare to keep their eyes on the pure white fairy girl for too long. They only dared to glance at her quickly and then silently retracted their eyes. The miserable end of some guys in the past has long become a kind of legend. Don't try to look at the heroic woman more, this has become their recognized rule. In this way, facing the awe of the crowd, Sioran brought Firwise to the volcanic building. Good morning, the day of the flame-extinguishing battle. Sioran skillfully pushed open the door of Hephaestus' office. He didn't know how many times he had been here before, and he didn't need the forging goddess's followers to lead the way. Every time they saw the hero walking towards the main god's room with ease, the faces of the members of the Hephaestus clan were filled with inexplicable expressions. According to the rules of their clan, only the leader and a few female blacksmiths responsible for intelligence collection can enter the goddess room. Therefore, they all understand what the boy who can freely enter and exit the main god's room means. Really, you are still like this? It's been so long, forget about that thing. Hephaestus was a little helpless in calling Sioran. Since he saw her shameful appearance, she often heard this name. At first, she often felt ashamed of it. After all, he was the only one who saw her like this. Firwise. But the boy seemed to want to see her shaken. He always enjoyed it. So in the past, she always showed her weak side in front of him. But after being teased by him so many times, she would not be like at the beginning. Because Hephaestus' rare appearance is very interesting. It's a pity that you seem to be immune now. Looking at the forging goddess who was not affected at all, Sioran shrugged regretfully. Tease the serious goddess in front of him was a rare pleasure for him in the past. It was very rewarding to turn the determination in those red eyes into rippling spring water. It's just that I can't see it very often now, I can only look forward to the nights in the future. Sioran sighed a little, then remembered the purpose of this trip. Asked the goddess in front of him. By the way, Hefei, has Loki come yet? Loki, according to her personality, she should arrive at noon. Hephaestus thought of a goddess who was often hungover, and his expression was a little subtle. As the top forging faction in the city, he had dealt with Loki's family in the past. She also lamented the changes of this goddess who she had known since heaven. Is that so? Don't worry about her for now, I'll trouble Hefei to maintain my weapon for the next few days. As he spoke, Sioran handed his beloved sword to the forging goddess. Professional things should naturally be left to professionals. Hephaestus took over the goddess's blade and took it out to observe carefully. As the forging goddess' fingers stroked, the sacred text flashed silver. This child's evolution is really exaggerated. It's worthy of being your sword. It's exactly like you. Looking at the words on the black sword, Stos couldn't help but admire. The only living weapon in Orarine has evolved to an astonishing degree. As if reflecting its master, it is growing at an exaggerated speed. As if hearing the goddess's approval, the long sword trembled slightly. The crisp sound of the sword contained obvious joy. Sioran and the others were not surprised by this. The goddess's blade is a living existence. With the evolution of the master, it will eventually produce real wisdom. This is a miracle created by the goddess and the alien. Sioran is also looking forward to its future appearance. Then, Hephaestus put the goddess's blade back into the scabbard and placed it on her desk. She naturally wouldn't maintain it now. Then, as if remembering something, the goddess of forging said to the boy, "Are you planning to go on an expedition recently?" "Yes. I will go with Loki and the others." "Didn't that guy tell you?" Sioran leaned comfortably on the sofa in the room. This was where the goddess occasionally rested. Fulvice followed quietly behind her without saying a word. "Well, she did say so, but I still didn't expect you to really go with her. Are you on such a good terms with Loki's family now?" Hearing Sioran's affirmation, Hephaestus was a little surprised. She knew the boy's personality very well. Not only from the perspective of a god, but also from the experiences she had with him over the years. She knew the boy's personality roughly. He basically didn't care about people who had nothing to do with him. The so-called common sense and rules could not be imposed on him at all. "I happened to be investigating the guy hiding in the dark with Loki recently. In addition, I personally like this apprentice of Ace very much." The last part is the point, greedy guy. Hephaestus instantly understood what Sioran meant and could not help but glance at him. He never hides some of his thoughts. He has no respect for gods like himself and always has the idea of offending them. Thinking of some heart-pounding pictures, the goddess of forging fell into her own world. "Haven't you always known about my greed, Hefei?" Looking at the gradually rising pink on that perfect face, Sioran's mouth corners were slightly raised. It's really exciting to see the forging goddess show this delicate side. I'm going to work." Unable to resist the boy's straightforward gaze, Hephaestus could only look down at the documents on the table. However, the eyes that looked up at the boy from time to time were full of moisture. It showed that the goddess' heart had already been stirred by him. "Really amazing, Lord Sioran." The elf girl who witnessed the whole process, I don't know how many times she expressed the same admiration. "Fei, good morning. No, should I say good afternoon now?" Loki pushed the door open and walked in, and greeted Hephaestus naturally. Finn followed her and smiled at Sioran on the sofa. "Sorry Loki, I asked you to come here specially. Don't take it to heart, Fei. We are the ones who bothered you to prepare the weapons first. After all, we are also companions who will go on an expedition together." Loki waved his hand to Hephaestus nonchalantly. Because the previous expedition encountered corrosion monsters on the 50th and 51st floors. The Loki family also specially invited the senior blacksmith of the Hephaestus family to join the expedition. This is to reduce the loss of weapons during the expedition. The condition for reaching cooperation is to hand over the drops of monsters in the deep layer to the blacksmith of the Hephaestus family. Therefore, this expedition should be a joint expedition of the three major factions in Orario, to be precise. The Loki family, one of the two kings. The Hephaestus family, the top of the forging faction. The new faction Hestia family with heroes. This will be the largest expedition cooperation in Orario except for the Zeus family and the Hera family. Not only the red-haired woman's inducement, the Loki family itself wants to use this to reach the 59th floor of the sky. This is a floor they have never challenged before, and they plan to refresh the family's record through this expedition. After all, reputation is very important to Finn, who wants to restore the courage of the family. The leader of the dwarf tribe would never give up this great opportunity. Although I called that child, she won't care about anything once she gets into work mode. Hephaestus stood up, feeling helpless about his own child. Haha, isn't this exactly the same as you, Fifei? Sure enough, children take after their parents. Loki didn't mind at all, she knew who the goddess of Forge was talking about. After a brief greeting, under the leadership of Hephaestus, the group arrived at the forging workshop of their tribe. As soon as they entered here, the smell of metal in the air rushed over. Tap tap tap. The crisp and powerful impact sounded in the workshop with a soothing rhythm. As they followed the goddess of Forge into the depths of the workshop, finally, they saw the owner of the blacksmithing sound. The space here is relatively dim. There are only a few sporadic magic stone lamps flickering around, and the dark red halo is reflecting the workshop. In front of Sioran and the others is a woman, surrounded by various large tools. All of them are tools related to forging. She is wearing obvious Far Eastern clothing. Her wheat-colored profile is a little hazy under the light source. Her eyes are focused on the delicate iron block in her hand. Even though she is sweating profusely, she is not moved at all. Her heroic appearance makes people forget their gender temporarily, and only see the craftsman's fire burning. At this time, she is not a woman, but a tireless seeker of truth in forging. It is worth noting. She also had a black eye patch on her left eye. Her outfit was surprisingly similar to that of the goddess of forging. This person was the leader of the Hephaestus clan, Tsubaki Kobrand of 4.5. Wait for this child for a while, she can't hear anything now. What a troublesome child. Having said that, Hephaestus' tone was full of pride and admiration. As the goddess in charge of forging, Tsubaki Kobrand's craftsmanship naturally made her proud and admired. Sioran and the others certainly wouldn't mind. Seeing the state of the craftsman, they all knew that she was completely immersed in forging at this time. This is a realm that can only be achieved by devoting all your body and mind to it. Bang! With the last hammer falling powerfully, the formed sword body has appeared. Tsubaki picked up the steel pliers and put the rough blank into the water, and wisps of steam came out from the surface of the sword body. Then, after the grinding of the blade and various procedures that laymen could not understand at all, a newly completed red longsword appeared in everyone's eyes. Chun. Seeing her finish the forging, Tas reminded her. Oh! Isn't this the Lord God? Long time no see, what do you want to see me for? Chun seemed to have just discovered the existence of Hephaestus. Then she handed the red longsword she had just finished, to know how, to her Lord God. Take a look at this magic sword first, I am very confident. Chun's mature face showed childlike innocence and purity. Anyone who has seen her once will understand. This is a craftsman who was born completely for forging, and never stops pursuing breakthroughs in skills. But even so, she was obsessed with forging and still became a Level 5 first-level adventurer. This fully revealed her talent. Hey, didn't I say that I would discuss the expedition with Loki and others? Hephaestus felt helpless about his child's enthusiasm. I had already notified Chun before, but it seems that she still put it behind her. What a headache, child. Oh. After being reminded by the Lord, Chun seemed to remember that this was the case. Long time no see, Chun, you haven't changed. Sioran greeted Chun gently. In the past, he often came to see Hephaestus, so he was quite familiar with this worker. Oh, isn't this hero? By the way, I have been in the workshop, and I miss the warmth of the skin. I won't hug the Lord this time, hero, let me hug you. Chun walked up to Sioran enthusiastically, and before he could answer, she hugged him in her arms, not realizing the charm of her extraordinary curves. You are so bad. I am sorry. Feyerwazi scolded Chun, almost revealing her true feelings. Sioran was speechless now, as the great evil had enveloped him. Well, although this was also related to his lack of resistance. After playing around for a while, Sioran and the others began to formally discuss the subsequent expedition. Picture shows Chun. Chapter 78. As long as I'm here. Then I'll get straight to the point. Fifei, how many high-level blacksmiths can you lend me? In the guest room of the Hephaestus family, Loki put away his past playfulness. He looked at the forging goddess opposite him with a serious face. For this expedition, the Loki family prepared a large amount of supplies. It almost emptied the family's assets, so she was very concerned about the number of blacksmiths who followed. This involves their judgment of weapon loss. Well, children with good craftsmanship and adventurer abilities. Including the pile, there are about 20, and all the children are above 4.3. I can guarantee the strength. He pondered the number of high-level blacksmiths in the family. Hephaestus quickly gave an answer. Unlike the exploration-type families with generally strong combat power, the Hephaestus family is a forging faction. The core of their family is forging, and they cannot often go to the underground maze to brush experience points. But this does not mean that the strength of the Hephaestus family is weak. The reason why they can stand at the top of the faction without being attacked by other families. In addition to having the top forging level in Orario, the senior blacksmiths in the family are also the guarantee of protecting the safety of the faction. The head blacksmiths in the Hephaestus family have very strong combat capabilities. Loki and Sioran will enter the unknown depths this time, so they naturally need senior adventurers. If the blacksmiths who follow are not strong enough, it will definitely slow down the pace of the expedition. The dangers in the deep are not comparable to those in the lower layers. A short negligence may cost you your life. This is the iron rule summed up by the families who have gone on countless expeditions to the deep. Sioran is not interested in protecting people who have nothing to do with him. Therefore, adventurers who can barely protect themselves in the deep must be at least at the level of 4.3. Naturally, only senior blacksmiths meet the standard. With the help of the senior blacksmiths of the Hephaestus family, it is not only possible to suppress the loss of weapons during the long-distance process. At the same time, he doesn't have to worry about their safety. 20, plus Sioran, I'll be relieved. Finn lowered his head and thought for a while, then smiled calmly. 057. This number of senior blacksmiths is enough to deal with the consumption of martial arts knowledge during the expedition. What's more, there is a hero to hold the line, so Finn's pressure is reduced. He naturally did not put all his hopes on the boy. Not to mention that he understands the character of the hero. Although this expedition is a three-party cooperation, it still depends on his own faction to open up. The pride of the strongest family does not allow him to become dependent. Since he planned to become the courage of the family. The road of the leader of the little people is to keep moving forward. However, the boy's companionship did reduce his pressure to a certain extent. This is the conviction brought by the strongest in Orario. Chun, will you also participate in the expedition? Sioran didn't have too many ideas about the subsequent expedition. He was just a little curious about what the people hiding in the dark had prepared. For him now, exploring the underground maze is just a game. It is also a stage for his own girl. As a companion, he is actually more of a spectator. If there is no monster that is far beyond their ability to deal with, Sioran will not choose to take action. It has always been like this. He didn't want the girls to lose their original will because of his existence. He wanted to see them shine, not boring puppets. Naturally, I am also very interested in the scenery of the deep. It would be even better if I could get the dropped materials I like myself. Without any hesitation, Tsubaki stated that she would also participate in this joint expedition. As the strongest craftsman of the Hephaestus family, she played a huge role. How are the weapons with the indestructible attribute prepared, Tsubaki? Finn mentioned the focus of this expedition. He specifically mentioned this matter a week ago. It's foolproof, brave. You specifically asked me to make it, and it has been completed. Thank you. In order to deal with corrosive monsters like the worm swarm, Finn specifically asked Tsubaki to make weapons with the indestructible attribute. This time, except for Isai, who originally had the indestructible weapon Sword of Despair. All the first-level adventurers of the other Loki family will get one of these weapons. In order to deal with the possible accidents in this expedition, Finn included almost everything he could think of. This also proved how much he valued this exploration. Sioran didn't care about the new monsters that could spit out corrosive liquid. Not to mention that the maze monsters he had seen so far posed no threat to him. The strength of the goddess blade itself was far greater than the indestructible attribute of the weapon. He naturally didn't need to make additional weapons. Besides, Sioran had a hunch. If he also asked Chun to make a weapon with the indestructible attribute, his beloved sword would most likely cut it off at the first time. The intelligence of the goddess blade was gradually improving, and it could feel some of the owner's thoughts. Therefore, Sioran could also know some of the information it conveyed. As long as I am there. From this point of view, the goddess blade seemed to be exactly the same as his own god girl. Well, both had a considerable possessiveness. In fact, without its reminder, Sioran didn't need the other weapons. This long sword itself has become an extension of his own limbs. He certainly wouldn't choose anything else. In a sense, the current blade of the goddess can be called a divine weapon. Whether it is the strength of the owner or the potential of the weapon itself, it is worthy of this title. With the accumulation of time, it is inevitable that it will reach the level of a divine weapon. As long as Sioran's own evolution has not stopped, it will continue to grow with the owner. Now, after the continuous sublimation of Sioran and the maintenance of Hephaestus, in terms of strength, it is no less than the divine weapon of the gods. This is why Sioran basically only uses it for simple slashing. In addition to his own existence outside the specification, the weapon is also not comparable to other adventurers. As long as he is a little more serious, he can instantly break the entire Aurario. A veritable walking disaster on Earth. But do you really not need me to make a magic sword? Thinking of this, Chun was still a little confused. Families who go on expeditions to the deep usually need magic swords. This is the largest expedition in the history of Loki families, but she was not asked to forge a magic sword. This puzzled her a little. After all, the magic sword can play a big role in the Maze City. The magic sword is a magic weapon that only a very small number of high-level blacksmiths can forge. It is quite rare and extremely expensive. As the name implies, it is a weapon that can release magic. There is no need to chant spells, let alone consume the user's magic power. It can be activated instantly and continuously, and almost anyone can use it. But generally speaking, the magic sword is also a consumable, and its service life is very short. It will often be completely shattered after being activated once or several times. Therefore, for many families, the magic sword is a prop that is kept at the bottom of the box. Haha, no need for the magic sword this time. Specially customizing the indestructible weapon for your family, FIFA has already spent most of the funds. PSI. The previous expedition of the Loki family was terminated halfway through. Not only did they not get the expected benefits. On the contrary, they wasted a lot of equipment because of the consumption of worm monsters. They can now customize several sets of indestructible weapons, which has almost drained their family's funds. Sioran discussed with them the location of the subsequent expedition. It was finally decided to gather in front of the Tower of Babel, and each was responsible for the relevant supplies. The Hestia family and the Loki family, where Sioran was mainly responsible for the battles during the expedition. The senior blacksmith of the Hephaestus family maintained the weapons. As for the supplies needed for this expedition, after the three parties discussed, it was finally decided that the Loki family would be responsible for the main part. After all, their family has the largest number of people, so the consumption is naturally the highest. And the Hestia family only needs a small amount. The props dropped by monsters in the underground maze belong to the Hephaestus family. The Hestia and Loki families divided the magic stones and other precious materials into 40% and 60%. Jiran didn't care about this, it didn't matter how much. The wealth accumulated in his space had already reached an exaggerated number. The core of this expedition was to take his girl to see the deep scenery. Other things were incidental and dispensable. Then all the expedition matters were discussed. Sioran and Loki separated at the door of the Hephaestus family. Ran, why did you suddenly think of going on an expedition with Loki's flat family? It can't be because of that Warren again. Hestia jumped directly onto Sioran, who was lying on the sofa. She grabbed his collar aggressively, her tender cheeks slightly puffed up. There was some suspicion and doubt reflected in her blue eyes. The beautiful black ponytail swayed naturally with the rhythm of her breathing. A certain atmosphere almost filled the entire living room. After confirming the time for the joint expedition, Sioran informed the girls of the relevant matters. Naturally, Hestia and the others would not oppose any of Sioran's decisions. It has always been like this, believing and tolerating all his willfulness. But the god girl is quite resistant to foxes outside the family. In the past, her own family could not stop her, but now people from outside are fighting for her. The boy's popularity is beyond her imagination. You are a god, Hestia.